Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, independent filmmaking psychopaths. Whew, that was a long one. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, Mike. How the hell are you doing?
I am doing well. It's in the low 70s today, so I'm cheering that I can actually have my windows open.
Yeah, I wore a long sleeve for the first time in a while today. I was happy.
Yeah, I went to go drop my kids off at school this morning, and lately I've been going out in tank tops in the morning, and today I had to go back in and just grab like a light little hoodie to throw on. But all right. Also with us, it's Don and Ellie. What's up, Don?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right. So this week was another little kind of situation where we were scrambling for something to cover. The Speak No Evil American remake came out in the theaters. And there was various stuff on VOD. So we were trying to make a decision, and I believe it was Dawn suggested this one that's actually kind of been floating around on YouTube for a little while. I remember it kind of getting a little bit of buzz. I wouldn't say buzz, just people talking about it, and then it's kind of died down. So it is called Milk and Cereal. I want to make sure I got it right because I kept wanting to say it the other way around, but it's called Milk and Cereal. This is a found footage independent movie, and it clocks in at an hour and 2 minutes, which it might be the shortest movie we've done on Fresh Cuts. There might be something close, but this might be it.
This year, yeah, I think there was one year where we were doing I think we were doing one of the End of the Dark ones that I think was also like maybe about 50-ish minutes.
Okay.
I think this year it's the shortest, but there's been some that haven't reached an hour.
Did we not do any of the Never Hike Alone movies? I don't remember. I know I've reviewed them on some show, but I wasn't sure if it was here or not.
I don't think I was here for the first one. I think we did the second one. If
Okay.
we did them at all, that's what I'm trying to say. Is that
And that second one was 55 minutes. So yeah, that would probably be our record.
Yeah, I can't remember if I want to say I remember talking about it, but I can't remember if it was on Fresh Cuts.
Yeah, me neither.
Exactly. Same here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is directed and written by his name is Curry Barker. I don't know a ton about him, but from what I read, he kind of has like a comedy background, like comedy stuff on YouTube. But I did look, kind of browse. I didn't watch anything else.
A lot of the recommended videos on the channel when I watched it were his stuff, and they all look like comedies.
Yeah, it looked like there was like a couple other horror things, but mostly comedy. So that could play into like some stuff in this movie or not, but we'll see. And I will take the synopsis off IMDb. A surprise birthday prank takes a turn for the worse when a popular social media duo must face the reality of the terrifying aftermath. Ooh, terrifying aftermath, eh? Okay. Well, let's talk about that and our general thoughts on the movie itself with Venom starting us off. Milk and Cereal, what are your general thoughts?
I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible because I've been just glowing since I've watched this movie. I had a really, really good time with this movie. I got to say, Curry Barker is a director to look out for. And I also got to say that our writer-director, Curry Barker, casting himself as the titular Milk in this was just perfect casting. I can't really get into why it's perfect casting, at least not until we get into the spoiler section, but damn, I had a really good time watching this guy, kind of deal with his pranks, deal with the aftermath of, this one prank that maybe went a little wrong. I think the biggest thing that people are going to take away from this movie is the fact that this movie has an $800 budget. Let me repeat that. $800. They made this entire movie for $800. And I know some people are going to say, oh, well, it's only an hour long. There is actually an 85-minute cut of this movie. There was a full-length feature, a full feature-length film, and Curry was trying to get distribution for the film. He was trying to get this distributed. Unfortunately, because of his lack of any kind of pull in the industry, the fact that he's just kind of a YouTube guy, and maybe more importantly, the fact that there's licensed items in this movie. I mean, we see McDonald's, we see multiple alcohol brands, we see a Funko Pop. And I know I probably am going to be one of the only people who notices it, but yeah, right on the mantle of Milk and Seven's apartment, there is a Funko Pop. I couldn't really tell which one, but trust me, I can pick out a Funko Pop box from like a mile away. So that may have had a little bit of why, a little bit to do with why he couldn't get distribution for this. Eventually, he decided, I'm just going to go ahead and do a 1-hour cut of the movie. So he edited out 25 minutes of the film and just released it for free on his YouTube channel. And that's Bad Idea Films, if anybody's interested. This has to be one of the first times that we've done a free movie on Fresh Cuts. I don't remember ever doing a movie that you didn't need a streaming app, a subscription streaming app, or have to go to the theater to see it or something like that. I mean, maybe we have, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. So this is definitely kind of a revolutionary film. A lot like Unsane from 6-7 years ago, where that movie was shot on an iPhone 7. We don't know much about what this was shot on, but obviously they already had the equipment because they had their YouTube channel. So it's not like they had to rent any equipment. There's no professional actors in this movie, so they didn't have to pay anyone. Everybody in the movie is a friend or a friend of a friend. All the shooting locations were apartments that, the friends' apartments, public spaces. Like, there's some outdoor stuff that was shot, just, guerrilla filmmaking, definitely. But then the movie, the story itself, like I did enjoy this movie a lot. I love the way how it's out of order, how they'll set up a prank, like not set up, but what you'll see the prank acted out, and then they'll go back in time and show the setup, like what they did to actually get the prank going. And then once we actually find out more about the final prank, it makes the setup that much more interesting to actually see, our killer going through their preparations and everything else. It just, I mean, this movie comes off like Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Now, I would probably put Behind the Masks on a slightly higher pedestal because I absolutely adore that film. I love that movie. This one, not nearly as gory, not gory at all, honestly, when you think about it. I mean, it's not even rated. Usually when a movie is unrated, they mean, it's like practically a rated X or adults only. But with this, it's just, I mean, other than some language, there's not really much to have to. And there are some uncomfortable scenes. Like, I guess technically there is a kill of a female character that's pretty, not gruesome, but hard to watch because it comes off as so realistic. And that lends itself to the found footage style perfectly. I am a huge fan of found footage. I absolutely love found footage. I'm not going to say that this is the best found footage movie of the year, but it's the best movie shot for under $1,000 of the year, easily. I mean, like I said, some good performances, really good tension, especially once we pass the halfway mark and we start to figure out things about our main characters. It ramps up the tension. Atmosphere is there, but it's really more about the tension. It's about the last 15 minutes of this movie and watching Milk and Seven kind of, figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to get out of this situation, things like that. So, and then the last thing I'm going to say in my general thoughts is this is one of the most satisfying endings ever. I love this ending because of just the attitude that a certain character has throughout the movie and what he's doing to victimize his so-called friend. It makes the ending so satisfying for me. I really loved it. And there's even a little bit of a mystery with the end of the movie, which I'll kind of keep under my hat for now. But something happens in the very last frame of this movie that kind of leaves you scratching your head like, whoa, what the hell? Not nearly as mind-blowing as, say, the last frame of Saint Maud, which, is famously spectacular. But this one, like I said, one of the more satisfying endings of the year for me. I actually applauded because I was just so sick of having to hear this person talk about their plans and how they think it's going. And man, I gotta say too that this is one of the sloppiest serial killers ever. I mean, obviously the killer is a very young person, so they obviously haven't developed their talents yet. But my God, this guy is so sloppy, and it's so funny watching him get mad at himself for screwing something up. So yeah, I gotta say this was a fun little movie. I mean, for $800, and I know I'm gonna be harping on that because I mean, how many $20 million movies have we watched that have been absolute garbage? I mean, geez, we just saw The Front Room a couple of weeks ago. At least Mike and I saw The Front Room. Big budget movie that was just insufferable and frustrating in every way possible. So, yeah. So I got to say, for $800, Curry Barker put together one of the most entertaining found footage movies. I would probably still put Frogman as my top found footage movie of the year. Just that third act of that film was so batshit insane that I had a great time with it. But this one, like I said, you got the first 10 to 15 minutes is just mostly character development, watching these guys kind of interact with each other, blah, blah, blah. And then once the shit hits the fan, it definitely turns into a more fun movie. I don't know that I would ever call this a fun movie. Like I said, it's very grounded in reality. But again, just I'm going to shut up here because I could talk about this movie for a while. I know this movie isn't going to be for everyone. I am a found footage guy, as I've already said. So obviously, knowing that it's found footage, I'm already interested in it. And when I see the ride that the director takes me on, writer, director, and star, I mean, the guy wears many hats, and I hope he continues to wear all those hats. Because obviously, once he's actually working for a studio, he's not going to be able to write, direct, and star. It's just probably going to be a little bit too much for one man to do. But I am still very much looking forward to where Curry Barker's career goes. Because I watched a couple of those, the comedy skits, like the sketch comedy on the Bad Ideas YouTube channel. It's okay. Sketch comedy doesn't really do a whole hell of a lot for me. But yeah, this I did a lot for me. So yeah, I highly recommend Milk and Cereal. And there's no reason not to watch it. It's an hour long and it's on YouTube. You can watch it on your phone right now. Not that I would recommend watching it on your phone. I would never recommend watching any movie on your phone, but that's a personal preference. So yeah, Milk and Cereal gets 2 thumbs up from Mr. Venom. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, the whole YouTube thing's funny because when I had first kind of seen people talking about this movie on social media and it was mentioned that it was on YouTube, I assumed that like, oh, someone had just like ripped it and uploaded it on YouTube. And then I kind of went back and looked and they're like, oh no, the actual maker of the film put it on YouTube. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But all right, on to Dawn. What are your general thoughts on this one?
I'm not quite as high on it as Venom is, but I still really enjoyed it. Yeah, there's a lot to like here when you take in its budgetary limitations, its lack of resources, its let's just get everybody together. I can't imagine this was filmed for a very long period of time. I mean, this probably had to have been filmed over like the course of maybe a weekend or two. Just, getting everybody together, saying, okay, here, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, and then, going from there. I mean, I can say I've seen cheaper. I mean, the Plaga Zombie, the first one infamously is only $250. So if you've seen that one, I mean, that's literally, the only budget in that movie is for the zombie makeup. They spent $250 just going to the store, buying, I believe it's cake frosting and using that as zombie makeup. And that is literally the only thing that they bought. Everything else was home-owned or just shot at their backyard. But I mean, we're not talking about that one. We're talking Milk and Cereal. I really enjoyed it. It takes a while to get going. I am not a fan of this YouTuber influencer culture that they have on here. It takes a while to, get all of the characters down because it's not in order. It is a little frustrating when you realize that, things are not, they're not, in sync. They kind of jump all over the place. So it does take a little bit of time to figure out what's going on. I really, really, really wish that they wouldn't have gone with making all of these, all of these videos about pranking people, thinking that the only recourse was to kill somebody. And that kind of really made it difficult for me to buy into how the prank is supposed to go along, which, again, that's kind of, spoiling everything. But the fact that all of the pranks in here are based on thinking that you've committed a crime or that you've killed somebody kind of makes it difficult for me to buy into how the final prank is supposed to go about. But again, when you take all that away, I really enjoyed it. The exploits into his the killer's mentality and its unstable nature is kind of enjoyable. It does become a lot more enjoyable when he goes unhinged and everything starts to crumble around, and you realize, oh, that they're actually genuinely doing this, and it's actually taking shape, and his plan's coming off. There's some kind of delight that comes about when that takes place. But yeah, when you get past the beginning, when you get past the influencer culture characters that are populating this film, there is a lot to like about it. Maybe some of that is a little less annoying and aggravating in the longer cut, which I don't know if that means that there's more time with them or there's more time on the serial killer antics, but either way, it's good for what it is. I wouldn't say it's, again, the best. I really liked Frogman, but the one found footage film this year, it's kind of a little bit more upscale budget, but the one I really like this year is Tahoe Joe 2, the Sierra Bigfoot Conspiracy. Found footage Bigfoot films are never a bad thing. And I'm also friends with the filmmakers on Facebook, so another little plug there. But I really enjoyed that one. That's another big found footage film. If you want to include Late Night with the Devil, I think that would still take the cake. But I mean, that's kind of more mockumentary thing ish. So that could be give or take. But this is still a really fun one. I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to include it in some kind of found footage or like a serial killer challenge for Halloween, or even doing hey, I've already watched the movie I want to watch. Let's see if I can sneak something else in because it's only an hour, and even at like 1.25 speed, it's only going to take me maybe 45, 50 minutes to get through them. So yeah, good times all around. I'm not as high on it as everybody just because of the characterizations that go on, but I expected it. I'm not gonna cripple the film for it. It's just you have to deal with it. But yeah, other than that, you can do a lot worse than this. There's a lot to like here, and even though I didn't have enough time to get to some of the other shorts, the fact that there's a mix of horror and sketch comedies on their in their catalog does seem that they have a little bit more to them than just being one-trick ponies that entered the genre just for shits and giggles. So definitely I wouldn't be opposed to following them in the future. Maybe I'm not going to watch everything they do, but if they do something like this again, I'm down for it. So kudos, guys, and if you have a little extra, hey, good on you. So I guess that'll be it. And back to you, Mike.
All right. So just like you guys, yeah, I had a good time with it. I didn't know much about it going into it. When I found out that it would kind of center around prank culture, I was like, uh-oh, because I kind of have like a love-hate thing with like prank culture in general. Like, people who like really know what they're doing, like if you think of like the Impractical Joker guys, like they're hilarious to me. But like this kind of like new wave of like online influencer, where to them their idea of pranks are like almost pretty much just harass people trying to go about their daily business. Like, I think those people are not funny, and they're just more annoying than anything. And sometimes when they get their comeuppance by other people, it's like you feel it's kind of justified. But anyway, so going into this movie, I was like, uh-oh, are these going to be all terrible, unlikable characters? And like some of them are kind of annoying, and I was when I was watching, I was wondering too, like, oh man, is Venom gonna just like 10 minutes into this want everyone to die? Like, I wasn't
Yeah, that was
sure.
my thought too. I was like, as soon as they started in with that first prank, I was like, oh geez, he's gonna absolutely shit all over these people.
Okay, let me address this now while it's on my mind. I hate pranks and prank shows. I've never been into it. I just it's not my style of comedy. For whatever it's worth, I liked everybody in this movie. I just felt like they were organic. When I hate characters in movies, because it feels like they're being hammy or over the top or unnecessarily aggressive, stupid, whatever the case may be. In this movie, everybody came off fairly realistic. I mean, they're prank assholes, and that's a perfect title for them, because if you do pranks for a living, then you are basically an asshole. And that's okay. I mean, if you're comfortable with it, then everyone else should be too. But yeah, for whatever it's worth, I liked almost everybody in this movie. And once we actually get the reveal towards the end of the film of everybody's role in this, I like it even more. So yeah, I was just as surprised as anybody else.
Yeah, because like, to be honest, for a little bit, it was kind of almost testing my patience with him. But generally speaking, like I haven't always it hasn't always mattered unlikable characters to me as much. But I was just curious. So yeah, the story I like the fact that you like I thought they did a good job for being low budget and a kind of a simple story. I thought they did a good job, especially in the first like half of it, of kind of taking you through the pranks and then kind of having the back and forth of like what actually did just happen. Did they actually do this? Is this all part of the prank? Who actually knows what's really going on? Who's related to who's actually telling the truth about this and that? And I always appreciate when like these smaller movies can actually get you invested in the story, because I feel like a lot of times with low budget movies is like that happens to be what's lacking, because they just they focus on other elements of it. And this one I actually was kind of really pulled in by just what was going on, and I found it interesting. And as it went on and pieces of it unfold and you realize, okay, we're not going in chronological order with everything, I thought that was an interesting way to do it. And then you get to the end and it's like, oh shit, like, okay, so there appears to be maybe some type of master plan going on. It might not all just be random. And I thought it came together pretty well. And Venom, I was going to ask, because like you mentioned, it was the first time I had heard about an 85-minute cut. Do you know if it's currently or like it plans to be available anywhere? Because I am interested to see like what he cut for this 60-minute version to put on YouTube.
It is not currently available, but Curry said that if the movie gets a physical release, the 85-minute cut will be on there. Big if, of course. So there you go. We may never see it, sadly.
Yeah, it's too bad. Like, I mean, you would think like maybe he's holding out hope now for a physical release or at least some type of like distribution beyond YouTube. But like, if enough time goes by, maybe he'll just say, screw it, I'll put it out there for people who want to see it. Or, if he comes back with other movies after this, maybe he'll go back and throw it as like a bonus feature or something. But who knows? But overall, yeah, I was a fan, and like it's already been said, the movie's an hour long. It's on YouTube. No real reason not to at least give it a chance. I know, with the found footage genre, and then especially with like I want to say low, but $800 is extremely low. They get a lot of mileage out of that budget. It's sort of a testament to just modern technology and how much cheaper it is. Like if you want to make a movie, it can be done, and you have the motivation and the drive to do it. But it's available. It could be a movie where some people get 15 minutes in and they just are like, no, not for me. That's perfectly fine. But if you are any type of fan of found footage, I would say definitely give it a shot. It's just too easily accessible to skip it. So I'll leave it there. Back to you, Venom.
Did anybody else think that the gun dealer was going to have a bigger role in the movie? Like, for some reason, I thought that he was going to turn out to be our killer, or he was going to like save the day at the end of the movie. I'm actually kind of surprised that they had that guy who was a moderately interesting character. But yeah, he's only in the one scene. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen more of him, just because he was kind of quirky. I dug him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, what else can we say about this movie? It's so short. It's quick. There's pacing. I mean, you could make the argument that the beginning has some pacing issues, but ultimately, the catalyst event for the movie happens at around the 25 minute mark. So there's not a lot of waiting. And then from there, from the time that happens to the rest of the movie, it's just tension, straight on through. What's Milk gonna do? What's Seven gonna do? Blah blah blah. So I do like that aspect of it a lot. And yeah, I don't know. I as far as your comment about annoying characters, I just didn't find anybody all that annoying in this. Yes, I usually find horror movies with YouTubers involved to be rather insipid and annoying, but for whatever it's worth, like, these guys weren't ultra concerned with their numbers. Like, a lot of times when we do horror movies with YouTube influencers and content creators on there, they're so concerned with their numbers and their clicks and subscribers and everything else that it just turns into something I'm not interested in. And at no point did any of the YouTubers in this movie even really mention YouTube. I mean, ultimately they mention it once early on that they have a YouTube channel, and then that's it. Like, it doesn't become a major aspect of the film. So I really, really enjoy that, even though on a couple of occasions they'll actually throw up like the Prank Brothers logo and like the subscribe link at the bottom of the screen, which makes it look a lot more realistic. It makes it look like you're watching an actual YouTube video, which, for all intents and purposes, you are watching. It's just an hour-long YouTube video is all. So yeah, just like I said, no terrible performances. Like, there was no line deliveries that took me out of the film. No characters that I thought, wow, how the hell did you get into this movie? Because, like I said, everybody did what they needed to do, I felt like. Like, no one's going to win an Oscar for this movie, but no one's going to win a Razzie either. Like, everybody did what they needed to do. Milk, as a character, was starting to annoy me about halfway through the movie, but like I said, once we get more elements of the story revealed to us, it makes sense why he's such an annoying, stupid character. There's so much more I want to talk about his performance, but I can't really because it delves into spoiler talk. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask my co-hosts, you guys got anything else you wanted to say before we get into the walkthrough, which I would imagine will be fairly quick?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. All right, let's do it. Basically, our movie opens up with some YouTubers, and they're in the process of buying a gun. It looks like they're buying a gun with blanks to try to for their prank. They're putting a prank together. We don't find out what the prank is, which is another reason I like the movie. Rather than tell us what the prank is and then watch it unfurl, we just know that a prank is coming, and we get to see it in all its glory. Like I said, we meet this guy who's a gun dealer. Let's introduce some of the characters, too. Milk is obviously our main character, played by writer-director Curry Barker. He's one of these prank brothers that participates in the YouTube channel. His partner in crime and roommate is named Seven, who is he's kind of like the more down-to-earth, the more serious kind of guy. We find out at some point in the movie, we actually find out that Milk was kicked off the channel, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So obviously there's animosity between Milk and Seven throughout the movie. And then the third roommate in the apartment is a girl named Naomi, who is a lesbian. So I guess it makes sense that she's sharing an apartment with two guys. We meet a couple other their friends, a guy named Greg, and then Laura. Laura is Naomi's girlfriend, or current squeeze, if you will. And a couple other characters that we'll meet up later on. So after they purchase the fake gun, we are transported back to Milk's apartment, where he is having a birthday party, and it's actually his birthday. By the way, Milk very obviously is not his real name. He actually has a real name, which I completely forgot because they only mention it once in the film. But yeah, Milk is very obviously a nickname because when he opens his fridge, he's got like 3 full gallons of milk in there. So obviously he loves milk, hence where the nickname came from. I think it's a stupid nickname, but whatever. That's just me. So like I said, it is now Milk's birthday party. And he's like decorating for his own party, and he starts talking about how weird it is that he's decorating for his own party. But obviously we know, based on conversations that we've heard between Seven and another one of his friends named Jason, I believe, like I said, we know that something is coming. What ends up happening is at some point during the party, another person shows up, and that's Jason. It turns out that Jason is a friend of Seven. Milk seems upset, like, why did you invite this person I don't know to my birthday party? It doesn't make sense. Seven gives him some kind of lame excuse, like, oh, I thought you knew him. We all met at the bar, blah, blah, blah. Milk is obviously upset, but he kind of lets it go. Suddenly, in the middle of the argument, they start hearing screaming downstairs in the living room where the rest of the partygoers are. When they get down there, the new guy, Jason, the guy who just showed up, is pointing a gun at the other members of the party, and they're all screaming. Eventually, Jason points at Naomi and shoots her in the stomach, and we see the blood squib come out. We see the blood come out. Obviously, Milk freaks the fuck out instantly, but they don't drag it on for too long. I gotta say, like, basically, it's the shot. They shoot the girl, and then we see Milk's reaction, and then everybody starts singing Happy Birthday, including the girl who just got shot. She gets up off the ground and just starts singing Happy Birthday. So at least they don't torture him for too long. After that, everybody's like, you got me. Or Milk is like, yeah, you got me. You guys are good. You guys are pretty good, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, there's a knock on the door. And when Milk opens the door, it turns out it's somebody who lives in the building. He calls him a neighbor. I believe his name is Paul. And Paul is an older guy, looks like he might be of retirement age or maybe nearing that age. And he starts complaining about the noise. He says, he basically says, I got kids next door that got school in the morning. Like, this is really rude. Milk apologizes and says that they'll try to keep it down. And then Paul just walks into the apartment. Like, I'm serious. Like, this freaked me out at first, because who the hell lets a random stranger just walk into their apartment, like, without even trying to stop them, without saying, excuse me, sir, what are you doing? Like, nothing. This guy just walks into Milk's apartment and just starts looking around. Like, they've stopped the music. Nobody's talking. The room is dead silent. And here's this old, creepy guy just walking around the apartment, looking at everybody, touching random things like on tables and mantles. He walks by that Funko Pop on the mantle that I can't stop noticing. Sorry, I am a collector. And eventually he finally leaves, and they close the door, and everybody's kind of freaked out. Like, who the hell is this guy? Milk, because that last practical joke with the gun just happened, Milk thinks that the old guy is part of another practical joke by Seven. Seven and Jason both tell him, no, we don't know that guy. We have no idea who that guy is. So they end up going to 7-Eleven later that night. They go to 7-Eleven. On the way back from 7-Eleven, they run into the guy. They run into the old guy again, Paul. And this time he's just standing on the street. He's standing at the corner staring at the group. And it's not everybody that was at the party. I think at this point the group is just Milk, Seven, Naomi, and Jason. I think it's just those 4. And Milk is still convinced that this guy is part of a prank that Seven and Jason are trying to pull. So he literally walks up to the old guy, takes his hat off his head, and throws it on the ground. Everybody in the group is trying to tell Milk, dude, we don't know him. This isn't a prank. Please stop. And Milk just will not relent. He keeps going, thinking that this guy is part of a prank. So the next morning, Milk is woken up by his roommate Seven saying that there's someone in our living room. And they're like, what do you mean there's someone in our living room? And Seven's like, exactly what I said. There is someone in our living room. They go downstairs. What do they find? They find the old man sitting on Milk's couch, just sitting on the couch, not doing anything, not making any noise, not speaking, literally just sitting there. They don't know what the hell's going on. Seven tries to get the old guy's attention, but the old guy's not responding, like not replying to anybody's, requests for conversation. And then they go upstairs. Milk goes and talks to the guy, and this happens off camera, so we don't actually get to see what the conversation is. But then Milk returns and says, he's just a lonely old guy. He's coming over for dinner later tonight, or we're going to his place for dinner, something along those lines. Now, Seven obviously is freaked out. He wants to call the cops, which any normal human being would want to do. Like, here's this crazy old guy that started shit with us yesterday. He's potentially a neighbor, which is even more reason to call the cops, because he's just going to keep doing this if you let him. But they decide not to call the cops. And like I said, Milk realizes that it's just a lonely old guy. He's not crazy. He just doesn't really have anywhere to go. So like I said, they decide to go have dinner with the old guy. So that night they go to Paul's apartment to have dinner. And Paul is, basically apologizing for all the crazy stuff, saying, I'm sorry, I'm lonely, I get kind of crazy sometimes. They're sitting at the table drinking a bottle of wine that the boys had just picked up on the way there. And suddenly in the middle of the conversation, both Milk and Seven pass out. Literally, no warning, no like shaking, no woozy. Literally mid-conversation, bam, they both pass out and fall to the floor. Paul realizes that they have a camera recording, which he had requested no cameras in my apartment, because he knew that these guys were like YouTubers that record everything. So he's like, once he sees that there's a camera and it's running, it's physically recording, and it just recorded him drugging these two kids, he freaks out and the scene just cuts off. At this point, Milk and Seven wake up and they're in the desert, where they're in the middle of the desert. They're tied up, and Paul is there holding a gun to them, basically saying, just being really cryptic and talking about how, I was born the wrong gender. I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. And, my parents pretty much tortured me to get that out of my head. And he keeps talking about, people always say religion can't hurt you. And he's like, well, yes, it can, because it hurt me very badly. Anyway, the point is that Paul says he wants to die. But he doesn't want to die alone. He wants to take one of them with him. So what he actually does is he takes their blindfolds off. They realize that they're in the middle of the desert. It's the middle of the night. There's no one around. So it's not like they can call for help or anything. And Paul puts a gun in between them. Not the gun that Paul's holding to them, a secondary gun, another gun. He puts that gun on the ground between them and says, only one of you needs to die. One of you needs to die with me tonight. I'll let you guys decide. And then he starts giving them the ground rules. If you try to run away, I'll kill both of you. If you try to pick up the gun and shoot me, I'll kill both of you. He just basically keeps repeating, only one of you needs to die. So what ends up happening is, just as Paul starts to approach Seven and Milk picks up a clump of dirt or sand. They're in the desert. Picks up a clump of sand, throws it in Paul's eyes, and then yells at Seven, grab the gun, shoot him, while he's blinded, which Seven does exactly that. He grabs the gun, he shoots Paul once in the midsection. Paul falls down, and then Seven is like freaking out. He throws the gun. He's like, he can't believe what he did, basically. Then out of nowhere, Milk starts laughing. Milk starts laughing uncontrollably, and he says, gotcha. And that's when we realize that this was yet another practical joke to get back for the first practical joke when they shot Naomi in his apartment with the blanks. Problem is, Paul's not getting up. Milk is laughing, Seven is laughing, everybody's laughing because they realize that it's a practical joke, but Paul's not getting up. And then when they flip over Paul's body, he doesn't just have blood on his midsection, he's got blood coming out of his mouth. And that's going to be a little bit harder to fake, considering Paul was talking right before he got shot. They take his pulse and they realize, oh shit, Paul's really dead. Yes, the gun that was supposed to have blanks in it, which had a blank in it the night before when Jason shot Naomi, now had real bullets in it. And what's funny is, I started to think that maybe Paul did this because, you know, Paul was talking about how depressed he was, how he's a woman trapped in a man's body. I thought that he agreed to do this prank, but then when Milk gave him the gun with the blanks in it, Paul replaced the bullets because he wants to die, but he can't bring himself to, you know, commit suicide. That was the first thing that popped into my head when, you know, Paul wasn't moving after they realized this was supposed to be a practical joke. Luckily, I didn't have to think that for very long because right after this, we get the setup. And this is where we get basically the movie rewinds 2 days. It goes back to 2 days earlier. And we start to see Milk talking to Paul. And we find out that he just met Paul one day walking on the street, found out that he was an actor, and asked him if he wanted to help him with some of these pranks. So, you know, we see, you know, the old guy showing up the night of the party. You know, we see it almost like we're seeing it from another angle. And then we see the next day when Paul showed up in his apartment and just sitting on the couch, we actually see a shot that we didn't see the first time around, which is Milk talking to Paul and giving him compliments, saying, dude, you're doing awesome. These guys are so freaked out. You're nailing it. This is perfect. And then we finally get probably what's the biggest reveal of the film, and that is that Milk is our serial killer. Yes, we see Milk taking the blanks out of the gun and putting real bullets in it, and he's laughing about it the whole time. He's like, he starts talking about some of his kills, and he starts talking about how I would never kill a friend. I love my friends. But Seven, everybody seems to like Seven, and I don't know why. So very obviously, Milk is just jealous of Seven being so likable, and then this is where we find out that Seven actually kicked him off the YouTube channel. Basically, they had some creative differences. Seven accused Milk of his pranks not being very creative, not being very original. So I guess this whole serial killer plot is Milk trying to show Seven that, yes, I can be creative. Look at how creative I'm being. But the problem is that Milk is a legitimate psychopath. This guy is fucking nuts. And I gotta say, this performance, I mean, from an indie actor who we've never heard of before, this is an awesome psychopath performance. He does this thing where he repeats phrases. And anybody who's ever done any actual research on psychopaths will realize that, yeah, they'll kind of attach themselves to a certain phrase or a certain couple of phrases, and they'll repeat it. And in this movie, Milk is always looking at the camera whenever he's doing like his little solo testimonials. He's always looking at the camera going, why don't you like it? Why don't you like it? Almost like he's speaking. First, it was like he was speaking to his YouTube subscribers. Then it was like he was talking to one of his victims. But he kept repeating it. Why don't you like it? Why don't you like it? I like it. Why don't you like it? So, I mean, just a beautiful psychopath performance, I gotta say. And I'm going to make a bold statement. This blows Mia Goth's performance in Pearl out of the fucking water. I'll take this guy's psychopath performance over Mia Goth's in Pearl any fucking day. And I know I'm going to get hate for that, but it's just the way I feel. So, anyway.
Well, you realize he did kind of tip his hand in the very first scene when they were talking about whether or not they've killed anybody, and he just nonchalantly mentions cats and then just drops it.
Exactly. Like, I killed a cat once.
Yeah, like that's the first thing they do, and nobody jumps up on him. That's valid. Yeah, nobody jumps up on that and puts two and two together. Yeah, that's a big one right there. That's one of the things I like about it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. At the same time, too, I can't imagine every single kid who killed a cat in his childhood became a serial killer. Yes, it is a sign that points to psychopathy, future psychopathy, if not present psychopathy. But I can't imagine every single kid that killed a cat in their childhood, became a serial killer. But you have a valid point. Nobody really made a big deal about it when he made that revelation at the party. So that is still a valid concern. But yeah. So at this point now, we're back to, the present. Seven and Milk are still in the desert trying to figure out what to do with Paul's body. Seven obviously is freaked out. He wants nothing to do with this. In fact, he wants to call the cops right away, which, by the way, is the smart thing to do. I hate in horror movies when people accidentally kill someone, but then rather than call the police and just admit that it was an accident, they try to cover it up. And what people don't seem to understand is the instant that you try to cover up an accident, it is no longer an accident. You are now a murderer. You went from accidentally killing someone to now you are a murderer because you're trying to hide the body. And it seems like a lot of people don't fucking understand that. If they would have just called the cops when Paul first got shot, yeah, there's the chance that they would have to deal with an involuntary manslaughter charge. But guess what? Involuntary manslaughter isn't going to mean life in jail. It's going to mean like 3 to 5 years in jail because it was an accident. It's involuntary, even though you were negligent because, you should have made sure that the gun had blanks in it, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, people, if you accidentally kill someone, don't fucking cover it up. Just call the cops, for fuck's sake. Save yourself the future trouble that you're going to have to deal with, especially the future trouble that both Milk and Seven deal with here. But I digress. So
always call the cops.
Always call the cops. I mean, yeah, I know the cops aren't always the most helpful, and this is coming from a minority, someone who doesn't trust the cops as far as I can throw them. But in that situation, it's like, nah. I'll take involuntary manslaughter over murder one any fucking day of the week. But again, that's just my responsible adult brain. Whereas these guys are, they're 20-somethings. So I'll cut them a little bit of slack that since Seven has never committed a crime, he just kind of freaked out and didn't know what to do. But he allows Milk to talk him into multiple things throughout this movie where I start yelling at the screen. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you agreeing to this? This doesn't make any sense. But I digress. Let's keep going. They decide they're just going to bury Paul's body. They decide they're going to go buy a shovel. And this is one of the scenes where we start to realize that Milk is not a very seasoned serial killer because he's literally in the car at Home Depot. He sends Seven inside to buy a pickaxe and a shovel so that they can bury Paul. Yeah, because that's not conspicuous at all. A single guy at Home Depot at 1 a.m. buying a pickaxe and a shovel. Really? Anyway. What we see is Milk in the car yelling at himself. He's actually like, I'm such a fucking idiot. How could I forget the shovels? What the fuck is wrong with me? So very obviously Milk is not very good at his job. Well, profession, I guess would be a better way to put it. There is an interaction with the police officer. As it turns out, Milk, once again, in his infinite stupidity, decides to park in a handicapped spot with a fucking dead body in his trunk. Like, they didn't leave Paul's body in the desert and then go get the shovel and come back. No, they transport a dead body, which is a whole nother charge right there. The amount of crimes that they commit in this movie is ridiculous, considering one prank went wrong. Well, so Seven thinks that it went wrong. It just so much weird scenarios occur. But let's get back to the film. So after Milk deals with his parking citation for parking in a handicapped spot, him and Seven go back to the desert. They successfully wrap Paul in a tarp and then bury him. Now, the next morning, of course, Seven is freaked out. He's not comfortable. Milk is a little bit too comfortable, which kind of, I don't know. Like I said, I understand that Seven is going through a bunch of stuff because of everything that he's just gone through over the last 24 hours. But he never once questions how comfortable Milk is with all this. Like, Milk doesn't freak out once in this movie, not once. It's like, really? You're not going to question why this guy's so comfortable with burying a body in the desert? But again, so, a couple of days after this, Paul's son shows up. His name is Frank. Paul and Frank actually, Frank actually lives in the building. I don't know if they ever verified that Paul actually lived in the building or if that was just Milk, saying, pretend you're my neighbor complaining about the noise. But Frank actually does live in the building. And this is, like I said, this is Paul's son. Now, Frank is a big dude. He's a pretty big, buff dude. And he's upset that his dad is gone, like disappeared, which, of course, is putting another wrench into Milk's plan. Like, again, Milk, like, he didn't do any research to find out if Paul had any family before pulling this thing off. Like, yeah, one of the sloppiest serial killers ever. But he is young. He's a kid. So I guess I'll cut him a little bit of slack. Anyway, Frank is talking about how he's been calling his dad every day for the last few days and that this isn't like him. Though he does have a past where he'll disappear to Vegas for like a weekend, for the most part, more recently, Paul doesn't really just disappear like this. So Frank is, of course, concerned. And he actually talks to Milk and Seven because his dad was seen with them previously. Milk basically admits that, yeah, your dad was helping us out with a prank, but once the prank was over, your dad dropped us off and we haven't seen him since, which is obviously a lie. So eventually Milk and Seven go back to their apartment and they decide that they're going to send a text from from Paul's phone. Once again, stupidity. Why would you carry the phone of one of your victims on you? Does GPS not mean anything to you, you fucking idiot? Well, again, suspension of disbelief, so we got to let it go. So they decide to send a text from Paul's phone to Frank, basically telling him that he went to Vegas, that he decided to go for a weekend to Vegas and that he'll be back soon. What ends up happening is the instant that Frank gets that text, he runs over to Milk and Seven's apartment, knocks on their door, and starts saying, no, this is too much of a coincidence. Literally, you were just at my apartment. We were talking about my missing father, and now he sends me a text telling me that he's in Vegas, and I still can't get a hold of him because they basically sent the text and then they turned the phone off permanently. They just kind of shut it off, and the plan was to bury it in the desert, not with Paul's body, but somewhere else. Now, obviously, because Frank is aware that these guys are pranksters, he starts questioning, is this a prank? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, do you know where my father is? They deny anything. Frank leaves, and then they basically decide, well, I think we need to kill Frank. Now, I'm sorry, I've actually skipped a little bit of a secondary storyline with Lara and Naomi. Lara and Naomi, basically the morning after the party, Naomi receives a text from Lara's phone breaking up with her. No phone call, no nothing, just literally sends a text saying that they're going to break up. And the reason that text was sent, and once again, we find this out in a flashback scene. As it turns out, Milk has taken Lara hostage in like a safe space that he has, like a rental unit that he has kind of on the outskirts of town. And he kind of is just playing with her. He starves her for a couple of days. And then finally he just gets sick of it and he grabs a brick and just starts beating the shit out of her until she's dead. And now Lara is just dead on the ground amongst a bunch of other human bones. It's funny because there's like not human remains, like severed arms and legs, but actual bones. Like when I see bones like this, it's like, do you know how long it takes for the flesh to completely rot off of a bone? It's the logic shit like this that bothers me. But again, suspension of disbelief, I'll let it go. So yeah, like I said, Lara is actually dead. Naomi thinks that she just broke up with her over text, which then, lets us see that this is something that Milk has done before, because now he's sending a text with Paul's phone to his son Frank. So after all of this, Milk decides that Frank has to die. Obviously, Seven wants nothing to do with it. He's like, no, I don't want to kill this guy. I don't want to kill anybody. We already accidentally killed one person. I'm not going to kill another person just to cover up our accidental crime. But of course, Milk, being the charismatic serial killer that he is, he's able to convince Seven that it's the right thing to do, that they don't want to go to jail, that they're going to get caught. If they ever find Paul's body and Frank is still alive, they're going to be able to put 2 and 2 together and realize that it was Milk and Seven who killed Paul. So they decide to kill Frank. And the plan is that that Seven is going to wear a pair of spy glasses, those black frame glasses that have like a spy camera in them. He's going to wear those while he goes over to Frank's house to talk to him. And basically, he has to figure out a way to get Frank into his bathroom. And then as soon as he gets Frank into the bathroom, Milk, who will be watching everything on the spy glasses, will then run in and kill Frank because, like I said, Seven doesn't want to have to do it himself. This gets fucked up too because basically as soon as Seven knocks on the door and Frank opens the door, before Frank even says hi, he says, "Those are spy glasses." And Seven is like, "What?" And the guy's like, "No, those are spy glasses. I'm not a fucking idiot. I know what spy glasses look like. I can see the camera." He's literally looking right at the camera lens and saying, "I can see the camera." But then he still decides to let Seven into his apartment, which, again, I don't know what the fuck Frank's thinking about, but he ends up letting him in. And he starts getting mad about the pranks that these guys are pulling because, like I said, these guys are famous YouTubers known for their pranks, and Frank is in the middle of his dad being missing, so he's not in the mood for pranks. So he literally gets really fucking pissed off at Seven. Finally, Seven says something that is so mind-bogglingly stupid that I think I may have gotten a tumor in my brain. Literally, when Frank says to Seven, "Where is my father?" Seven says he's in the bathroom. And I'm like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? Tell me Frank is not that much of an idiot. Well, apparently Frank is that much of a fucking idiot because he literally tells Seven, "Okay, you first. Go in there," which is one of the smart things that Frank did because he's obviously on edge. He knows that these guys are pulling something. He just doesn't know what. So what ends up happening is basically Seven tells him that he's in the shower and the shower curtain is drawn right now. And he tells Frank, go in the bathroom. You go pull the shower curtain and you'll see your dad there. Frank obviously knows that he's fucking with them in some way. And he says, "No, I'm not going in there. You pull the shower curtain open." And he's just telling him over and over again, open the shower curtain. I want to see that my father is not fucking in there. Eventually, Seven finally relents, pulls the shower curtain. Obviously, there's nothing in there. It's not like Paul's body is in there or anything. And then at the exact moment that Frank is like, "All right, that's it. I'm fucking sick of your pranks. I'm calling the cops." Literally the instant he says that, here comes Milk, and he stabs him in the throat with like a pocket knife, hunting knife, if you will. Basically stabs him in the throat. And Seven just starts freaking out. Seven starts screaming like he's the one being murdered. Like he's like, "Ah!" like watching Milk. And maybe this is where Seven starts to put it together that Milk is way too comfortable with killing these people. Because literally, Milk, completely emotionless, just walks up, stabs Frank in the neck, watches Frank fall to the ground, then pulls the knife out so that Frank will bleed out. And that's exactly what happened. Frank bleeds out while Seven is still in the shower freaking out. And Milk is basically yelling at him, telling him, "Dude, snap out of it. We gotta clean this up." Milk is pissed off because he now has to do since Seven is now basically catatonic. He basically has to clean up the apartment himself. He has to chop up Frank's body himself. He has to do everything himself. So he's pissed off at Seven. Now, while this is happening, Naomi and who's the other roommate? I forgot. Greg. Naomi and Greg decide that there's something wrong because Milk and Seven got into a major fist fight earlier in the film, basically right after the desert scene. Milk said something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he said something to Seven that he shouldn't have said. And Seven just basically beat the shit out of him, left his face all bloodied and battered. Actually, pretty satisfying scene to watch this idiot get his ass whooped, but I digress. Like I said, since Naomi and Greg are both wondering what's going on, why are they fighting, they actually break into Milk's bedroom while Milk and Seven are at Frank's house taking care of Frank, cleaning up his apartment, getting rid of the body, everything else. Naomi and Greg walk into Milk's room. They start looking around because they think that the prank at the party set off Seven or Milk, one of them, to the point where they came to blows. So they start looking around the room looking for like flash cards and storage cards and like tapes and anything that they could find so that they could watch some footage to see if they can find out why these two are arguing with each other. What ends up happening is they find a box under his bed that looks just creepy as fuck. It's like an old wooden box, and on the outside is a piece of tape with the word keeps written on it. Keeps, Keeps. And we all know that some serial killers will keep something from their crime, either something off the victim or something from the location, almost like a souvenir, if you will. Well, when they open up the box, there's vials of blood inside. There's these little vials of blood inside, and each of them has a name on it. One of them says Haley, or the first one they pull out says Reagan. And they're like, wait a minute, is this Reagan blah, blah, blah? Basically, it's another girl that went missing recently. Then they find a tube named Haley, and they're like, oh my God, is this Haley blah, blah, blah? Greg thinks that this is a prank. Greg, because these guys are all pranksters, Greg thinks that this is just Milk setting up a prank for later with these vials of blood. But then finally Naomi finds a vial of blood named Lara. And it's spelled the same way that her girlfriend spelled it, Lara. Not Laura, but Lara. So she starts to freak out, thinking, oh my God, like the pieces start coming together in her head that, oh shit, I think Milk is actually a serial killer. She ends up finding a piece of paper with an address inside of the box with all the blood vials in it. They end up finding an address. So she takes her cell phone and takes a picture of the piece of paper with the address on it. And at that exact moment, Milk is coming back in the house. So they put everything back as quickly as possible, stuff the box back under his bed. Then when they get downstairs to the kitchen, they catch Milk trying to sneak out with garbage bags and other shit in his hands. And of course, they're like, well, what's with the garbage bags? What's going on? And Milk is like, Frank has a dog that, we're helping him out. I mean, it's weird that he came up with that excuse. Like, why would somebody need somebody else to get rid of their dead dog? But whatever. Again, it's a weird one. And that seems to appease Naomi and Greg long enough for Milk to leave, go back to Frank's apartment, and go back to cleaning everything up. We actually hear some like hacksaw sounds. So obviously he's hacking Frank's body up into pieces so they can get rid of it easier or transport it easier. And during this moment, while Milk is cleaning up and Seven is still in the shower freaking out, basically catatonic, we see Naomi and Greg go to the address that they found in his box. They go to the place. I don't know what's going on. Like, Milk doesn't even lock the place up because they don't even have to break in. They literally just open the door. The door is unlocked and open. Milk literally doesn't think anyone will find this. And it's basically a storage unit out in the middle of nowhere, like one of those shipping containers, one of those big ass shipping containers. But like I said, he doesn't even lock it. It fucking leaves it open. So they walk in, and what's the first thing they see? Laura's body on the ground. Yes, Milk has not had a chance to take care of Laura's body yet. It's still sitting there. And that's when we see another shot of more human bones just thrown all over the floor. So it just seems like Milk isn't real keen on getting rid of bodies, just kills them and pretty much just leaves them there to rot, which, again, terrible serial killer. So at the exact moment that they find Laura's body. We hear Naomi start to scream. We are transported back to Frank's apartment, and we see Milk doing another one of his testimonials in front of his camera. And this time what he's talking about is, I wasn't thinking about something. Seven was supposed to be my sixth victim, but because Laura, for whatever reason, he just decided he wanted to kill Laura that night. It's not like Laura did anything to him. She just, she left her leather jacket, or no, he stole her leather jacket, which gave him an excuse to go visit her later that night saying, oh, I found your leather jacket. Can I return it? Blah, blah, blah. So, like I said, he's talking into the camera, doing his last testimonial, talking about Seven was supposed to be my sixth victim, but since I killed Laura, she's now my sixth, and now Seven is going to be my seventh victim, which never dawned on me. He's all proud of himself, he's got this big shitting grin on his face, which he has throughout the entire movie, by the way. This guy's smile is creepy as fuck. When he's staring into the camera going, why don't you like it? Why don't you like it? It's one of the most unsettling things I've seen since Nick Cage and Longlegs. It was fucking great. Anyway, he's still talking into the camera, basically talking about, well, I'm just going to go ahead and kill Seven now because, he's basically fucking up my plans, and all of this stuff with Paul and Frank has just been fucking everything up. So he's like, I'm going to go kill Seven now. What ends up happening is, as soon as he says that, he turns around and there's Seven pointing a gun at him. Where the gun came from, I'm not sure. It's probably the gun that killed Paul. Why Seven? Oh, right. Seven took the gun over there. That's right. When Seven first went to Frank's house, he had the gun with him because he thought he might need it to lure Frank into the bathroom. Because, like I said, Frank's a big guy and Seven is a tall, skinny goofball. So he's obviously not going to be able to get over on Frank physically. So he probably needs the gun. But like I said, when Milk turns his head, there's Seven pointing a gun at him, and finally, with no fucking monologuing, no bullshit, why did you do this? Seven just pulls the fucking trigger, and we see the camera that Milk is holding, that he's doing his testimonial on, falls to the floor. And then, unfortunately, we hear one more single shot, which I'm sure implies that Seven killed himself, because after the second shot, we actually hear another body fall on the floor. And then movie ends. And that is Milk and Cereal 2024, my friends. I don't think I did very much justice with my walkthrough because, like I said, the way that they kind of go back and forth in the timeline, it's not a linear timeline, it's back and forth. I really like that as a way of giving us exposition. Rather than having the killer monologue and tell us everything, we actually get to see it in real time, and I like that a lot. So, yeah, this movie worked for me in most ways. Like I said, I liked the performances. The one on-screen kill that we actually get, which was Laura's kill, is legitimately uncomfortable because, like I said, it's very realistic. He's basically, first he hits her with a brick and then he just starts slamming her head down on the concrete floor, and it's just so visceral and uncomfortable that it's a pretty killer little scene. But yeah, there you go, my friends. Milk and Cereal. So good.
All right. Yeah, that's gonna wrap up our discussion on Milk and Cereal. What else do we got coming out for people to listen to, though? If anything, Venom, anything new?
Yeah, nothing out yet, but we did record episode 30 of Creature Comforts. No More Room in Hell presents Creature Comforts. On that episode, we decided to have a little bit of fun and, not do an ultra serious creature feature. So we decided to go ahead and do, from 2017, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Rampage. And I don't care what anybody says. This movie is a cheesy, silly creature feature, but goddamn do I love it. I own the 4K. I absolutely love this film. So, and that's a little bit of a spoiler on what we thought of the film, but that episode is in the editing stage right now. It probably won't be out until either later this week or into next week. Since we just released episode 29 a week ago, I can kind of take my time editing this one. There's no rush to get it out. As long as it's out before the end of September, all is well. But yeah, we've already got pretty much the rest of our year planned out for the movies that we're going to do. So Creature Comforts is still, steadily chugging out an episode every month. That's one, point of pride for us. We've never missed a month. Every single month since we've been a show, we have done an episode. And the one time that one of the hosts wasn't able to join, we did like the Fantasia Film Festival, like special episode where we talked about a couple of creature features that we saw there. So I'm kind of proud of Creature Comforts for, being that steady juggernaut of a podcast. Considering, getting multiple people together in the podcasting community isn't always easy. If it's the kind of thing where you record at the same time and the same day every single week or month, it's a little bit easier. But because of our fluctuating schedules and the fact that, Derek's schedule isn't a standard Monday through Friday, he works weird days. I myself am trying to, pick up little bits of work here and there. I'm still looking for a career, but I've been able to lock down a couple of part-times, so I'm bringing in money now, but it's not exactly something that makes me happy. Anyway, the point is, getting people together for podcasts isn't as easy as it sounds. So it is, a cool thing that Creature Comforts has put out an episode every month since our inception. And this month will not be any different. That episode will be out sooner than later. And unfortunately, that's about all I have. I did get my movie assignments for the podcast Under the Stairs horror head-to-head. I know what movies I'm looking at. I know the people that are going to be on that episode with me. We're just, once again, locking down record dates. And for those who don't know, the podcast Under the Stairs is based out of Scotland. So, yeah. And I'm in LA, which is, other than Hawaii, I'm about as far from Scotland as possible. So, getting those podcasts together is usually a more daunting task than some of you might think. But we'll get that done sooner than later. And that's all I have for you, folks.
Okay. Does Dawn have anything for the folks?
Not much. As mentioned, the latest episode of Creature Comforts is recorded. The latest one available is the whole gang together to discuss the Chinese killer snake movie Rising Boas in a Girls' School, which was a lot of fun. Again, still waiting on the release of my appearance on the Indie Film Cafe Network. Looking at the film Feast of Flesh, which is going to be released in October, I'm told. I don't have definitive dates on that, but I'm told that it is going to be parts of a series that they run called 31 Days of Indie Horror, which runs through October. So I'll give you more details on that pending the release. And the only other thing is... or two other things. We're still doing the NFW Killer Shark movie ones. We managed to just finish I think there's one more to go now because we just did Under Paris. So that was I think there's one more to go after that one, but I think that one might be the last, just based on where we are in the timeline. So go ahead and listen to that. And season 3 of Horror Countdown is available wherever you get your podcast. Season 4 coming up in the next couple months.
Mike, I'm sorry. Before you jump in here, there's something that I completely forgot to talk about. The last frame of the movie. I mentioned it earlier that there's a little bit of a sense of mystery with the end of the movie. I forgot to mention, folks, that after Seven kills Milk and then Seven kills himself, the credits roll on a static shot. The camera that Milk was using is just stuck on the floor, and the credits roll. After the credits roll, the camera moves like somebody's picking it up, but we don't know who. Milk is dead, Seven is dead, Frank is dead. Who picked up the camera? So there you go. Some little tiny bit of, maybe it was a fuck up. Maybe it wasn't even supposed to be in the movie, but it seems too intentional. Literally right before the movie goes to black for the final time, the camera moves. So I don't know. Do what you will with that piece of information, because I don't know what the hell it means. So sorry about that, Mike. I forgot to mention that.
No worries. worries there. As far as I go, nothing new from me. Just chugging along with fresh cuts, and hopefully my situation with the floor getting replaced should be coming to a close soon, as we're actually getting the money from the insurance is on the way. So everything should be settled, and then probably get back to the normal routine with the main show as well. But with that said, I know there's theatrical release this week, right? And next week, I think.
I believe so. I forget what, but yeah, I think you're right.
I know next week the body horror movies The Substance is out for sure. I know.
Is that a horror movie though? I mean, are we sure?
I haven't heard. Everybody's saying that the idea is body horror, but that's not the movie. It sounds more like a drama.
Yeah, everybody I know of that's seen the screener said it's not a horror movie. That it's a straight thriller that's got some body horror elements to it, but that it's not really body horror. Obviously, I'm down to watch it and see, but yeah, if it's a thriller, I don't know. If there's nothing better that week, I'm not against it, but just the concept of this movie just doesn't really interest me all that much either. So, but whatever, we'll figure it out.
All right, and then this week, I don't know. I remember when I looked at my Regal app, there was like something this week too. I just can't remember what is the Halle Berry one this week, or is
yes,
that next
Never Let
week
Go.
too?
Never Let Go. That's this week, the 20th.
Okay.
That's the movie you're thinking
Alrighty. Okay, well then we'll probably be doing that then.
Oh, and then we got Bagman next week. Next week we got Bagman opening in theaters. What else? And then Terrifier 3 the week after that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Terrifier 3 already. We're getting a Christmas movie on October 3rd.
I know, it feels so. I think that's why I didn't realize it, because it looks like a Christmas movie, but in the early stages of October.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fine. So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we'll be in the theater for at least the next month or so.
Sounds
no complaints
good.
Here.
Favorite place to watch a movie, so I'm good with
it.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Fresh Cuts. We will be back in a week with the next one. Let's say bye to our listeners.
Later.
If you accidentally kill someone, just call the fucking cops. Trust me, you'd rather deal with an involuntary manslaughter charge over a murder charge and then transporting a dead body. Don't be stupid. Call the cops.
Peace.